Carol Vorder-Norks. I wonder if you could answer a question for us. Now, I know you take responsibility for the Labour victory, and also you're really, really good at maths. So can you explain to us why old ceramic bobhead Rachel Reeves has stolen 300 quid from the very poorest pensioners who will die this winter in order to give 11 billion quid to despot dictators and tyrants that run countries in Africa where it's hot? Now, I admire you on so many levels. I love your Norks of porn. I love your tiny little waist. I love what the surgeons have done to your face. I love that you said what you thought on the BBC and got fired. And I love that you've gone after Michelle Mone. But I also know what it's like at LBC. You're having to rim James O'Brien on a daily basis. You're having to lick the fat out of the folds of fatty folk.
Don't vote for Labour. Rachel Reeves, in her defence, remarked with surprising indifference that those individuals wouldn't have supported the Labour Party regardless. Hopkins portrays a narrative of dedicated citizens who sacrifice for the betterment of society only to be harshly dismissed by the government. Rather than addressing the urgent issues facing the public, the current administration is bogged down by vague and unrealistic objectives, showcasing a complete lack of concern and accountability. In her final remarks, Hopkins highlighted critical issues affecting the majority of the population. This has become particularly evident through a petition demanding a general election which directly questions Starmer's policies. The petition raises the important question, is he truly attentive to those in need, or is he merely overlooking their struggles? Currently, over 2.5 million people have signed this petition. Regardless of personal opinions, it is undeniable that Hopkins has emerged as a prominent voice for the rising anger and frustration within British society, which is weary of the Labour Party's indifference and irresponsibility under Starmer's leadership.
Old Billy Big Bollocks, Keir Starmer, says he's prepared to make some unpopular decisions. But beware of this, it's a sleight of hand. Because we can all live with some unpopular decisions. It would be unpopular not to give 11 billion to Africa if you're a massive greenie. It would be unpopular with the doctors if you decided to say, actually, we can't afford to pay you more. You get more when you're a consultant, so just hang in there. It would be unpopular with his Muslim massive if you were to say, do you know what, if you've got more than one wife, we're going to tax you on the number of wives you have. Those things would be unpopular, but maybe they'd be quite reasonable or rational. What he means when he says unpopular is irrational, unreasonable, and targeted on the very people who are working hard, paying their taxes, and are squeezed the most by every other bastard doing bugger all.
Katie Hopkins has consistently been outspoken in sharing her opinions, and her recent critique of Keir Starmer's authoritarian leadership style has struck a chord across Britain. The level of discontent has grown so intense that Starmer struggled to manage his emotions during a live broadcast. He tends to harshly silence dissenting voices, which threatens the fundamental principles of a free society. Hopkins specifically highlights the Labour Party's treatment of the elderly, contending that pensioners have been overlooked under Starmer's superficial leadership.
End of the week. We also promised to tread more lightly on people. We're doing this by arresting 11 and 12-year-old white boys in their own homes, even though their mothers are off partying in Ibiza. Typical. And if you're a wife of a Tory councillor, please know that we will send you to Birmingham in order to be given your sentencing, because local communities need to see us sacrificing white people in order that we can secure their votes next election. We'll also be crucifying anybody critical of this regime. If I get my hand on that slag Katie Hopkins, she's well and truly fucked. Elderly people, I will crush you. I will take your bus passes, I will take your heat, and I will take the joy from your life, and you will die early, because the way we can ease the burden on the NHS is by crushing people who don't typically vote for it.
She skillfully utilizes the real-life experiences of pensioners to illustrate harsh realities, soaring electricity bills, inadequate medical care, and meager support for social programs. She positions herself as a champion for those who have been overlooked, continually questioning whether the quality of life for the working class has genuinely improved under Starmer's leadership. This sentiment is echoed by other prominent figures, such as Jeremy Kyle, who also voices his strong opinions. Kyle passionately criticizes the government's misguided approach to immigration and housing, expressing grave concern that migrants are being housed in hotels while many homeless British citizens lack essential support. Hopkins amplifies this frustration by sharply condemning the government's peculiar priorities, which seem to favor migrants while leaving British citizens in need of safe housing to struggle on their own. This issue transcends politics. It is fundamentally about human dignity.
Comrades, my name is Keir Starmer, and I'm here to fuck the foundations. When I became your Prime Minister, not only did I get new hair and glasses provided by a donor who now has full access to 10 Downing Street and my bedroom, we were promised three things. Number one, we would be fully costed and fully funded. We're so fully funded and fully costed, we're essentially just like Katie Price, or HS2, or the public sector in Argentina pre-Milei, depending on your sense of humour. In order to make the £22 billion hole in the budget even worse, we have spunked a whole bunch of cash at train drivers and junior doctors. This guarantees two things. Number one, they will vote Labour. Number two, nurses and teachers will be on strike again by the end.
Through her direct and unwavering approach, Hopkins has compelled Starmer to confront the growing frustration of a public that feels entirely overlooked and neglected. At the heart of the debate lies a serious accusation. Starmer is attempting to silence voices like Nigel Farage and Lee Anderson on platforms such as GB News. While some contend that these figures merely create division, Hopkins firmly argues that they represent significant perspectives that have long been ignored or intentionally suppressed. She believes that the attempt to stifle dissent only underscores Starmer's weakness, suggesting he is afraid to confront uncomfortable questions. This not only deepens public skepticism regarding his leadership abilities, but also reveals his complete inability to engage with unsettling realities. For Hopkins, this issue transcends politics. It is a genuine fight to uphold the right to free speech. She asserts that a true leader should be willing to listen to criticism and confront it, rather than evade it like a coward. Hopkins maintains that open dialogue with opposing viewpoints is essential for transparency and accountability.
Are you now feeling the pressure? Because I think there's a petition that's currently
Your approval
online
ratings have dropped.
1.9 people who want the election to go again.
It's now
Is
over
it 2 million now?
It's now just over 2 million.
Do you feel the pressure?
Look, I remind myself that very many people didn't vote Labour at the last election. I'm not surprised that many of them want a rerun. That isn't how our system.
Acknowledging the importance of supporting migrants, Hopkins firmly asserts that this should not come at the expense of British citizens' interests. The growing discontent becomes increasingly apparent as she vehemently criticizes Starmer's hollow promises, particularly his claims that taxes would not be raised. When Starmer and his deputy, Angela Rayner, declared their intention to avoid tax increases, many working families viewed it as a glimmer of hope during challenging times. However, with taxes now on the rise, this promise has turned into a betrayal, igniting a wave of outrage among the public. For Hopkins, the tax hike is not merely a financial issue, it represents a profound breach of trust that deeply affects people's emotions. Working families, already grappling with escalating prices and inflation, now face even higher taxes, leaving them feeling neglected and deceived. For them, financial stability is not just an aspiration but a crucial necessity for survival. The disparity between Starmer's assurances and the harsh realities people encounter daily has become intolerable and demands immediate attention.
Keir Starmer has been in Italy with Meloni. So you've got a left-wing, radical left-wing human rights guy over with what would be labelled as far-right Meloni in Italy. Now I appreciate many of you will know much of this already, but it bears repeating at some level. Firstly, Meloni has been very successful at getting migrant numbers down. She's done that by, number one, hitting where they leave. So Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, she's making deals with those guys to stop the boats. So the deals aren't go stop the boats. The deals are, if you stop the boats, we're going to invest in you. So investments in trade, investments in deals, in infrastructure or whatever. So she's funding development of those countries in order for them to work with her and stop the damn boats.
Hopkins passionately contends that the wealthy can easily absorb the impact of tax increases, while working families are left facing the harsh reality of having to make tough choices, cutting back on essential expenses, sacrificing even the smallest comforts, and struggling daily to make ends meet. She vehemently criticizes Starmer for his complete lack of action in response to the increasing disillusionment among Labour Party voters who feel betrayed and abandoned by their own party. Polls and social media discussions clearly illustrate this widespread frustration and anger. Many who once believed in his optimistic promises are now dismayed to find that he has failed to address the critical issues that matter to them. Some even go so far as to label him one of the most ineffective leaders in recent history. According to Hopkins, Starmer's passive and reactive leadership style only deepens the growing sense of frustration and hopelessness among the public. Share your thoughts in the comments and see you later.